Welcome back. Another Bosses in Action. And today we've got my friend Preston from Palms Realty. He's got around, might be a little bit more, might be like one or two less, 5,000 leads a month coming through. And some of them are going through to his referral partners. Some of them are going in directly into the brokerage. But man, 5,000? Now, how do you quarterback these and manage them? That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, really, we obviously have an ISA team, so it all starts there. So as they come in, they're distributed to the ISA team. But, we also you have to have systems like we focus on them responding to, and instead of like we still call like anybody else, like, speed the lead, but we focus on trying to get inbound communication. So, we use tools like call action, texting Betty, and things like that. But really, because with that amount of leads, I mean, you can't say, oh, I'm going to call them 100 times or whatever. So we make sure that, we focus on trying to create as much inbound communication as possible. In Follow Boss, we have behavioral triggers set up. So obviously if, one person does something, we have behavioral triggers that'll set a task for the ISA team. But really, like anytime, even if you're generating 100 leads a month, like what I tell people I coach people on is you need to focus on setting up your systems for conversion before you focus on generating leads. Because the biggest problem most teams have when they generate a ton of leads or they want to generate a ton of leads, they don't have systems and processes in place to know what to do with those leads. So, a lot of what I tell people is you really need to focus on that system, that process, and then generate leads. And with any system or process, if it works, you could scale it up to 5,000 leads, 10,000 leads, whatever it is. And most people aren't generating that amount of leads, right? But, with us, we generate leads in North and South Carolina for referral partners and for Palms Realty. And then we're about to start generating leads all across the Southeast coming in May.
Got it. Dude, well, look, let's take a step back then. 5,000 leads, systems and processes. What does setting up your systems and processes look like for you? If I was going to just scale it down and you say, let's say if it's just for 100 a month or 100 a year, what does the process look like? Where do I start?
Yeah, so with us, we have an ISA team, right? So they're assigned to the ISAs. They don't go directly to the agents. We work them on the ISA team to set appointments, and we set it up like a lot of people use it, whether you call it 10 days of pain, 10 days of gain, or whatever. We use that system. So the ISAs reach out to them, but we also utilize ponds as well. So we utilize ponds heavily. Like our ISAs, after 14 days, they go into a pond, which we call the first pond they go to, and it's called prospecting with leadership. So the agents have to sign up for that. We could sign up 5 a day. They could come in and call that pond for those 14 days. Then after 14 days, it goes into another pond, which is the whole brokerage pond. And then the agents can call that pond at any time. We allow the agents, they could pull 5 leads a week out of the main pond or the prospecting with leadership pond. So the idea with that is like the agents they're not just pulling anybody out, right? Like they might be putting good notes in and they're like, okay, well, it's Monday. I've already pulled 2. This one was okay, but I don't want to pull them yet. So it kind of gives you ISAs within your brokerage that are agents. So other agents are calling. So that's what we do as far as the ponds. And then the ISAs are still calling those even when they go into the main pond as well.
Okay. So every lead that comes through is getting a call from the ISA team, or do you let the automation take grasp of it first by texting, by emailing? What's this process look like? Is it ISA first or auto texting, auto email first?
So text goes out first, and then the ISA will call as well, roughly within 5 minutes. And then the second day is call, text, email. Third day, call, text, email. But also, a lot of times people focus on speed to lead, and which is speed to lead is great, but we really, focus on speed to relationship. Like, we're not hammering them and saying, hey, what are you buying? You know, what's the location? What's their property type? So build a relationship and focus on relationship. And that's what we tell our ISAs as well. Like, if you tell people just to focus on calls, what are they going to do? They're going to just focus on making the amount of phone calls. So you got to think the psychology of it, look at it. You know, we focus on conversations. We focus on setting appointments. We focus on having good conversations. So maybe you're not making 150 calls a day. Maybe you're sending 100 text messages. You're sending 100 emails first, and then you're looking at who's responding to those, and then speed to response instead of speed to lead. Because like if I text you and you text me back and I wait 30 minutes to text you again, you could be chasing your kids, you could be doing whatever, and all of a sudden I'm interrupting you instead of responding to the best time for you to talk. So that's why we focus on those inbound communication and make sure we jump on that inbound communication as soon as it comes in. Because we're in a world of instant gratification. I mean, if you send me a text, most likely you're expecting one back pretty quickly, or you're expecting something saying, hey, I can't talk right now, I'll call you back later or whatever. So, you know, that's something we focus on, is making sure we generate a lot of inbound communication and then make sure we respond to that inbound communication as quick as possible.
I like that. I would agree with that. Trenton, as Trenton's our director of tech, and he's in charge of a lot of the follow-up and processes and systems. What do you think about that, man?
Well, I think that's huge, because if you have an ISA team or anybody making these phone calls, you can make 150 phone calls every day, spend maybe a minute talking to them and just trying to get their information. But it's if you actually take that time and maybe do 50 to 75, and you focus more on having a 2 to 3 minute phone call. So it's not just are you buying now? Okay. All right. Goodbye. You know, versus, you know, how are things going? You know, what are you looking for? You know, what's kind of motivating you to make this purchase? You know, figure out a little bit more life details. And I think that really helps build that relationship. So I'm totally for that. And I think it's a big speed to response. You know, speed to lead, great. You could have that easily with automation. But once you have that actual speed to response, that's when you can really build something.
Yeah, that's very true. So Preston, on that, if we expand on this and we take into consideration everything that you're doing to reach the client, whether it's putting the ISA in place with the automation, texting, email, nurturing long-term newsletter, all of it, putting everyone onto a home search, all of that. What have you found has been the biggest success when it comes to getting in contact with the client for the first time?
I mean, really, we see the biggest response on text. We use call action, we use texting Betty as well, but the biggest response we see, it's about 55% is what we see in the text response. And, and what I see a lot of mistakes that happen is, a lot of times, say, all of a sudden we're texting, we're having communication, we're having good communication, and then the ISA just, for no reason, picks up and makes a phone call. And all of a sudden, the person's like, why did you call me? I didn't say you could give me a call. So, I tell people to focus on wherever they're at. Like, if they're texting, just continue to text and then ask for that phone call. Just don't assume because you're texting somebody that it's okay to pick up the phone and call them, because you don't know where they're at. They could be whatever. They could be at work and they could text, but they can't call. So, that's a big part of it as well. Just you hear it a lot, meet the people where they're at, right? So if they're emailing, do that. People like to conversate, have conversations certain ways. Some people would rather text. Some people would rather email. Some people obviously you want to get them on the phone. That's the ultimate goal, right? But just make sure you get their approval to make a phone call to them.
Got it. And yeah, I like that, dude. So you have just under 100 agents, like 94, 95, 96, around there?
104 now.
Okay.
That was
forget what I said. You have over 100 agents. I heard it was around 104, around there.
Yeah.
How have you been able to grow so fast? Is it because you're providing the opportunities for your agents, and you're allowing for these opportunities to be better quality through the ISAs? What else is involved in this? What explain the super fast growth here?
Yeah, I mean, we focus heavily on recruiting. I've been coaching with John Cheplight for about 6 years now. So, and the thing about that is, like, I shared this a couple of days ago. We had in January of 2022, we have 7 agents. We had more than that, but there were 7 agents responsible for 41 contracts last January. Those same 7 agents this January were responsible for 11. So thankfully we did recruit and we continue to recruit, but we have a full-time recruiter on staff, and we just stay consistent. Most people, when you look at recruiting, and they'll recruit heavily and say they don't have somebody dedicated to do that. And they're like, oh, I already got 6 agents to join this month. Let's take the rest of the month off and get to it again or whatever. Or they'll wait till people leave and they're like, hey, I'm going to start recruiting. So recruiting to us is a daily, every single day. We do it, through social media with our agents, and getting the agents to, share socially how they like things and everything's going within the company. That's our best recruiter. But we have a full-time recruiter on staff. We send newsletters out to the agent population, but we do use the leads as well. We don't lead with that, but that's always a conversation that happens, right? And we usually wait for them to ask that, or, well, how do you generate leads? What does that look like? I mean, most of them know now, but what we tell them is we don't focus on appointments. We don't say, hey, you join us, we're going to give you 5 appointments a month. We tell them however many agents we grow to, we're going to always generate at least 30 to 40 opportunities per agent that we have on staff, that we have working for us. So that's what we focus on, is opportunities. We don't focus on appointments. We just say, hey, we're generating this many opportunities. And at any time you could jump in the pond and call the 25,000 people that are in there, on your own time, however you want, and we're going to continue to grow that as we grow.
All right. And with the ISAs that you have in place that are helping out the current agents to kind of alleviate the amount of leads that are coming through, do you also have them handle all the pond? At any point, do you give any of the pond leads to the agents? Tell me that whole process.
Yeah, we don't hand them off, so they could pull up to 5 a week. So any agent, like if they're calling, and I just looked at the stats, like our agents have called 97,000 phone calls this year, so far. So that's, we focus heavily on training them, on teaching them, how to have a conversation, what to talk about, how to respond to leads, and we role play and all that, but they could pull 5 a week from the ponds. We don't move them back into agent. We don't put them in agents' names, because really, like, an agent company lead, they shouldn't have like 500, right? Because, or whatever that number is, you know what I mean? We try to keep it around 100 per agent company leads, and try to keep it within that range. Because if they're not moving them through the stages, if they're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing, somebody else may do that, and that lead could convert.
Got it. Oh, go ahead, Trenton.
I was just saying, I think that's a good way to look at it, because if you start to overwhelm them with too many leads right off the bat, then it becomes where, they won't know who to focus on, or it's, who do I call today, versus when they have that lower number, that they can truly focus those efforts on. And I think it's better that you put them in the pond as well too, because then, if they do have that extra time, they can jump in there and, allow for that focus, but it's also where they won't get overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and then if somebody, it's tied to behavioral triggers as well. Like the agents can see that, right? So they could go in there and run filters. We have smart lists. There's stages we have set up, like we focus on making sure the agents move, like when an appointment's set, we have that as a stage. So when an appointment's set, they have to, as soon as, if they miss that, they have to move it to appointment missed. If the agent, if we set an ISA sets an appointment, move it to appointment missed, it creates a daily task for 7 days for them to call, text, email. If they don't hit it after 7 days, that lead's pulled and moved back into the pond. So we focus heavily on like things to do the agent should have to do within the stage. Like a hot stage, they should be reaching out to that person and having a conversation every week. If 7 days happen and they haven't responded, then we create a task for that agent and say, hey, this lead is hot. You haven't talked to them in 7 days. There's a task set for them to call. The nurture, they have to reach out to them once a month. Just making sure they're doing the things, because like if it's truly a hot lead, right, you should probably be talking to them once a week. I mean, if they're buying, like we say a hot lead's buying within 90 days. So, if it's, and then for us, we go from hot lead to active client, meaning active client, you're actually showing them property. They're in your car. You're speaking to them maybe every day at that point. So we go from hot, and then it goes to active client. And obviously active client, we shouldn't have to run automation, because if it's an active client, you would think that,
actively working with them. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go through, you talked a little bit about it. If we thought we had an active client, but it turns out we don't. They need a lot more nurturing. What's this process look like? Do you then do you have the agent send it back to the pond? Does it go somewhere else? Does that agent nurture it for 2, 3, 4 years? What does this look like?
Yeah, I mean, the agent will move it to nurture at that point. And the nurture, like it's set up, obviously we have email drip campaigns and everything that goes out, but it's also set up where that agent needs to have a conversation or text or something with them once a month. And the same thing, if that doesn't happen within 30 days, a task is added. And then if the agent doesn't take care of that task in 24 hours, then it'll be pulled back into a pond.
Okay.
And they sign out, and it's not an individual. They sign off on the system, right? Like what I tell them, I'm like, this is the way the system is built. This is what you signed off on. It's not an individual person. It's not me going in there and pulling your lead. You signed off on it. That's the way it is, and that's the way we're running it. So, you can't get mad at anybody other than yourself, because we have the safeguard where like 7 days, okay, they haven't had a conversation. Then a task is created for that agent. They have to clear that task out. You would think they would, once they get a task notification, they have 24 hours to take care of it.
That's pretty easy. I like that.
Yeah.
Trenton likes order. She's like, you're fired if you don't do this.
It just, I mean, you think about it, like with the amount of incoming leads, if we didn't have it set up, then it would be a train wreck to try to, it wouldn't work. If we didn't have these systems in place, it would be impossible to keep up with.
Preston, do you have an example of what this automation looks like on the back end so we can take a look at it? Or is this something you can go verbally with us saying, hey, this happens, nurture happens, then it's re-added? Anything you could show us?
Which one are you talking about?
On follow-up, boss, it's Dustin's question. He says, what's the automation look like if someone is pulled from nurture and then re-added
into the pond?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of that is set up through, like, all of it. You can't do all of it within Follow Boss. So like we work with Bar Agency on some of these things, so whether it's Zapier integrations or whatever. So some of those things that you could do it where it's like go by create a date and then 7 days, but it would have to be I guess you could start with an action plan after that action plan ends, then it can move it back to the pond. But a lot of the things that I'm talking about are actually built, we have Zapier set up, or Bar Agency sets some things up for us as well.
Okay. I think you answered that. Now, as far as conversations go that ISAs have with the incoming leads, most of those leads you're getting from Google PPC, Facebook lead ads, Zillow, Realtor.com. What does that look like?
It's all PPC or organic traffic. Yeah, we don't do any Zillow or Realtor. We OpCity, but Realtor.com, Zillow, we don't pay for any of those leads.
Got it. So let's go with Google PPC then, the pay-per-click. What do the conversations sound like? How do you instruct your ISAs to talk to these incoming leads? What does that sound like if I'm having that conversation with you?
Yeah, I mean, they're focused on a lot of times just kind of learning about what they're, where they're at, like not jumping into price and all those things, just kind of learning it. And if it goes that route, then they'll take it that route. But it's more just conversational at first. And a lot of times it'll happen, they'll respond to the text messaging as well, so that it starts there. We also do a lot of we do a lot of home valuation. Like we send a newsletter out to this database and we stay consistent with it. Like what I tell people is like, I want to generate as many leads as I possibly can for the least amount of money, because once they come into the funnel, that's when the work really happens. That's when, we start pushing them further down, because pay-per-click for the most part is going to be more top of the funnel because we're forced registration. A lot of the organic leads, obviously those are great because those are people that are raising their hand. So we don't force registration on organic. We force registration on pay-per-click. Been doing this for a long time, and to me, it's just never made a whole lot of sense to spend a bunch of money on pay-per-click and not force somebody to register, because you're going to get about 10% of the amount of leads, where like it's a numbers game, right? So for me, it's like, get them in the funnel, and then we're going to do everything you can with automation, with newsletters. We send a weekly newsletter out. We always have a mainstay at the bottom of that is like, sign up for your, home valuation. We use Fellow there. Then we generate about 20 or 30 home seller leads a week. But with us, like, we're a relocation market. So a lot of those valuations are like houses in California or Texas or Tennessee or whatever. But what we've noticed is those are really, really good buyer leads because they registered on our site. And what's happened, we get our top ISA calls, is the only person that calls those leads. So he calls them, and then what he notices when they fill out their home valuation, which is their address, they answer the phone about 70 or 80% of the time. So we started doing that in November. But the main thing is, we stay, once they come in, we just stay consistent. Like, we know we're going to send a newsletter out once a week. We're going to resend it to non-openers same week. We're going to do everything we do within automation, and it's just staying consistent.
Do you, Preston, the newsletter, do you send that out to your whole database? Is it segmented into people that you're currently working with or that you work with versus the ones that are just in your database? Is it the same thing to everyone? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's not segmented. It's the same because we share a lot of, neighborhood information. We share a lot of market information. It goes to everybody in the database.
Nice. And what does that include?
Like we'll do like real estate news, like mortgage information, and we'll do things like that. We usually pull content. We write about 40 blogs a month, so we usually just pull content from blogs. We keep newsletter less than 250 words. Have call to actions that are mainstay. Pretty simple as far as the design, because we don't want to add video and everything else, because all of a sudden it lands in a spam folder. So we just make sure it's just very, very simple. It looks great, but it's very simple. We send it through MailChimp, and we keep it to, like I said, less than 250 words, because most people aren't going to read 200. So, these long newsletters where people have like 600 or 800 words, nobody's reading it. Keep it small, and then click on a link to them. If they want to read more, then, link back to the blog that you pulled the description from.
I like that. And of course, you have MailChimp tied to Follow Up Boss, right?
Correct.
All right, good. And what website are you using? Because there's so many different ones to choose from. We've got our Ylopo site connected to Follow Up Boss. What do you have?
We use Sierra Interactive.
Nice.
IDX only. It connects to Follow Up Boss. So that's what we generate about 325,000 visits a month on our Easy Home Search site. So that's really where all the leads come in. But it's actually, we're building out a full custom site now, so that'll launch in May. But we'll still have a Sierra site for Palms Realty as well.
Okay.
So
are you going to be running your own Google PPC through the custom site, or are you still going to run it through Sierra?
No, we'll run it through the custom site. So the Easy Home Search site, it was built as a non-branded site. Now it's became a brand, but it was built as a non-branded site because doing pay-per-click for so many years, one of the things I used to always A/B test was testing a non-branded site and then testing one that was my company site. And what we noticed was we'd get about 10 to 20% more registrations on the non-branded site. So we'd have the company information really small. We wouldn't make it like the one we used to have in my previous company was sellingmyrtlebeach.com. It was totally non-branded. the one now, easyhomesearch.com, is non-branded. It's not associated to Palms Realty or any brokerage. So we see, in testing that through the years, it's performed a lot better. Well, 10 to 20% more. So.
Okay. Are you currently using the dialer in Follow Up Boss for your ISAs, or how does that work?
Yeah, we use the dialer.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah,
Call recording and Follow Up Boss. I think it's
right.
nice to track how long the calls are and how long they have to wait and everything like that.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't. I mean, what I tell people, like we use inboxes heavily as well. Like we send out letters to generate listings. They use the inboxes and they just, we use that phone number for all the different marketing campaigns so we can keep up with how the marketing's doing. So like we have agents that send letters out. They'll have a shared inbox. That inbox rings in. It's, so what I tell people, there's a lot of things in Follow Up Boss that you have to dig and find, because there's not, like, you don't really hear a whole lot about the inboxes, but it's an amazing tool. And it will actually, there's softwares out there where I've kind of helped people and coached them. I'm like, you're already paying for this other software. Do you realize that the inboxes within Follow Up Boss will do exactly what you're paying an extra $200 or $300 a month for? So we use the inboxes as well to generate a lot of leads.
Nice, man. And Sean, Trenton's got a whole process for creating content for blogging. The guy's a pro. You should see ours. It's because of Trenton. This is absolutely amazing. Trenton, you've got 2 questions there for you. Maybe you can answer them. And in the meantime, Preston, how do you come up with ideas for your blog content or even the newsletter content?
So the blog content is a lot of a lot of news, like a lot of happening now, stuff that people will be interested in. So we'll write that, and then we also do we focus on best of neighborhoods in a certain city. That when you think about blog content, you need to think about the way people search. What do people type in to search? And they use things like best neighborhood. So, that's what we do a lot, or best area, or comparing tax rates of one state to another. So those are the things we write mostly about is focusing on neighborhoods, areas, cities, and maybe you could go to easyhomesearch.com and see, but and a lot of them, as we've grown that site, we will write on a new city we're moving into, and within 2 to 3 weeks, we're showing up for that blog on page 1 of Google on cities we're not even in yet, but we plan to go in, we plan to pull the IDX feed to add them on the site as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's a lot easier than we think. I think we do the same thing, which is Trenton, we might have to run a whole webinar just on that, which would be really good. All right, Preston, you're hiring still. What city? What states, states, where are you at? If people want to join your team or just have questions for you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. For Palms Realty, we're also in Charleston, South Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina. Easy Home Search covers all of South and North Carolina. So we're in all the MLSs and in both states. We're adding Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Virginia by August. So we're actually going to start referring leads to people all across the Southeast.
I like that. And how do people get a hold of you?
Instagram, Preston Guyton. Facebook, same thing, Preston Guyton. Easy Home Search, if you email contact or Easy Home Search, they all go to me still. So
I like that, man. You're still quarterbacking everything.
Yeah, if you fill out the contact form there, those go to me. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, it's my first and last name. There's a couple fake ones out there like we all have, but I don't have there's no space or anything. It's just my name. That's it. Nothing else.
I got you. I just followed you on Instagram.
Wait.
So Preston Guyton, no dots, no underscores. Preston, you rock, dude. Very impressive. 104 agents. You're continuing to grow. You're expanding this year. I'd love to see where you're at towards end of the summer, beginning of September-ish. I think I'd love to do another one of these with you just to see how you grow to that, and then how you handle 10,000 leads a month, I'm assuming it's the same as 5,000, but
Yeah, it's actually going to be a lot different then, because that's part of the reason why we did the custom site. Because say if you're a referral partner in a different city, we're going to route the leads directly to your database. So hopefully you're using Follow Up Boss, and they're going to go directly into your database using metadata. So say a lead comes into a county in North Carolina that we don't cover, it's going to go to referral partners there.
are you still going to have the ISAs contact those, or are they going in directly?
No, they're going to go directly. I mean, we'll probably, if we see somebody ask a question and there's not an answer, or if somebody's tagged to a lead, in a different city, and the ISA see that question wasn't answered, then they're going to just send them a message, say, hey, this lead that's, tagged to you had it, favorited this property or whatever. So, because at that point, like if, we're in 7-8 states and we're generating 30,000 leads a month, obviously I can't afford to have that many ISAs.
Yeah, damn.
But we'll have some serious automation.
Yeah, you'd have to, because now you're running two different things here at this point. I like that. That'd be a great conversation just to see how you've built that out and how one process has remained the same through your ISAs and one has expanded and it looks different. And hopefully everyone's still on Follow Up Boss at that point. You just force everyone to join Follow Up Boss and be like, look, if you're not part of Follow Up Boss, you're not getting the referral. That's what I would.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what we did. Like, we still have Palms Realty's on Follow Up Boss and then Easy Home Search. We just set up a separate Follow Up Boss account for that. Because, as leads come in, we're also going to get the leads, but we're also going to refer them to partners throughout wherever they're at.
I like that. All right, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. We appreciate you. Now we're following you, so we're fans, Preston. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all. See ya.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Trenton.